Hi, I'm Mason Duchatschek, and today I'd like to talk a little bit about the importance of good and honest feedback. And one of the challenges I think managers have is that they can't solve problems that they don't know exist. And there are a lot of people between the employee customer experience where problems typically happen and the boss. And there are typically a lot of people between those 2 points who have a vested interest in making sure the boss doesn't hear bad news. And if hearing bad news is inevitable, they have a vested interest in making it sound less bad. So that makes leadership and management quite a challenge. And I think that smart companies are placing more value on feedback. And let me give you a couple examples. Like, I know there are some stores that you go in and they'll tell you, hey, drop, or a restaurant, hey, drop a comment card in the box. That may or may not make the boss's desk. If a couple people have a bad experience and you got some employees that are looking out for their buddies, on the way from the suggestion box or comment box to the boss's desk, they might accidentally get lost. It happens. And that's if someone takes the time to fill it out. And in fairness to some of the employees, a lot of people won't take the time to write about the great experience they had. But they'll be quick to write about anything that wasn't absolutely perfect, regardless of how nitpicky they are. I remember, I can tell you how many stores I used to go into, they're like, oh, and they still do this, and I don't think they're that serious about gathering their feedback for this reason. Hey, here's your receipt. If you go online and you fill this out about your experience here, we'll enter you in a sweepstakes to win this, X, Y, Z, or ABC. And the reality is, I don't think most people think that that's going to ever happen, that they're ever going to win anything, and it's probably going to be a waste of their time, so they don't mess with it. Which does what? It keeps the feedback from getting to the boss who needs it or the leader who needs it. People value what they pay for. And when I say people, I'm talking anybody. We value things that we pay for. And if, and I guess let me take a step back. I also think that there's a lot of folks that don't bother filling out a comment card or whatever because they don't think anyone's going to listen or anyone's going to hear it or do anything about it. So they're like, why would I waste my time? They're not going to do anything about it because it's not costing that company any money to ask for the comment card or whatever. Again, people value what they pay for. I had an experience recently. I own a home in Wichita where my son goes to college, and we used Cox internet services, high-speed internet services. I mean, he's a college kid, he needs access to high-speed internet, and I don't know, it was like $30 a month or something like that for the first year. And it was great, perfect, like easy setup, ease of use. If you would have asked me if I was a happy Cox customer, or my son if he was a happy Cox customer, he'd have said absolutely so. Great, no problems, nothing to complain about. After 1 year, the bill went up substantially. I mean, almost ridiculously, almost a ridiculous amount. And I called and said, hey, we love your service. We don't want to change, but I can't justify spending this much more for the same service that we were getting before. If you can just leave it as it is, I'll stay with you. But if you don't, I'm going to leave. There are other alternatives. And, I spoke with the different people and their customer retention efforts, and I just kept getting the runaround. Well, I can't do that for you. I can't do that for you. I can't do it. Well, I can drop it this much for you, which was maybe half of the raise, which was still a lot. And I'm like, I can't justify this. So I said, please, if there's somebody, you're a supervisor, I don't want to go through the hassle of switching. But at this point, it's a matter of principle that I'm giving you every opportunity to say this. I want to remain a customer. if you do not have the ability to retain me as a customer and continue taking my money and doing nothing, then put me in touch with someone who is. And she's like, I have the authority. No one has more authority than me. I can't, whatever. So I fired him and I went to AT&T. And AT&T was more expensive, but it gave me way faster service. And it was about the same price as what they came down to after, I argued with them on the other price. So it was, if I'm going to have to pay more, it was better to go to AT&T. Well, I would have gladly given feedback if anyone asked, but I was actually giving it to the person right then and there. And when they say, oh, we sometimes record calls for training purposes, I don't know how about you, but I doubt that ever gets done, or certainly not often enough, because if that got done often enough, calls like what I went through probably wouldn't happen, or wouldn't happen often. But anyway, I digress. The point was that I switched to AT&T, and I felt like I gave them every opportunity to keep me as a customer. They didn't do it. Well, needless to say, I guess maybe a month or two later, I get an email that says, hey, you know what, we'd like to a survey of you. We lost you as a customer. We'd like to know why. And you know what, we're going to give you an Amazon gift card if you just take just a few minutes to fill this out. And I was like, you know what, these people are serious, because it was a decent amount and it was only going to take a few minutes. And I did take the time to fill that out, and I gave them, I told exactly what I just told you. Now, whether anything comes of it, well, I would suspect the chances of something coming of it are a lot greater, because I'm sure that I'm not the only one that's had that experience for number one, so they're probably going to get multiple ones like that. But the reason they're going to get multiple reports like that is because they are paying for it. They paid me for my time to give them feedback on what they did wrong and how they can make it better. And if they paid other people well enough to do the same thing, then guess what? They're going to get a lot of the active feedback. So I believe that it was worth my time to explain it to them. And if they're paying for it, I at least feel like the likelihood of them doing something about it is much greater. So I guess, in summary, if you're an employer, manager, supervisor, I think it's great that you ask for feedback. I think that if you want accurate feedback, you're going to have to pay for something. I can even go on as a Buffalo Wild Wings and sitting there having dinner with my son and his buddy, and they literally said, hey, we will give you $5 off of your meal today if you fill out the survey. I was sitting there anyway, waiting for done. And right after that, I went into Dairy Queen. We went in there for dessert. Hey, we'll give you free dilly bar or whatever if you take just a couple minutes to fill this out. Well, I was standing there anyway, so I went ahead and did it. But would I have done either of those things if they hadn't made it worth my while? So number one, they made it worth my while. Two, I feel that they're going to use it because they're paying for it. Again, people value things which they get paid for. So all of that being said, if you are in a position and you really want to know what your company's doing well or where your opportunities for improvement, and you really value that opinion of your customer, you might want to pay for it. Make it worth your customer's while. Make it easy for them to do. Don't give them some lame, we're going to enter you in some sweepstakes, or hey, just drop this in the card, this card in the comment box, because frankly, I don't think that's enough to get enough feedback, and certainly not enough valuable feedback for companies, at least relative to what they can get from spending a little bit of money and making it a priority. So anyway, that's my feedback to you if you're an employer, and I hope you find it helpful.